ever eaten moldy chocolate?
The tardigrade?
I'm Jasmine.
Swear on Satan, I'll do that. That's my headcanon.
Okay, into it, all of it. I'm Mel's. I love it. Dumb.
Wait a minute.
And if you're watching TV,
I love it.
Make sure it's damn fine TV.
This is amazing.
That was awesome. Oh my god. Okay. Reminding you that Hollywood is full of criminals whose careers are flourishing. I'm Jay.
And Gail got bangs. I'm Mel's.
Welcome to Damn Fine TV Goes to the Movies.
This time we're here to talk about the third installment of a horror franchise where all bets are off. So let's take a stab at Scream 3. Let's slice and dice thrice.
Yes, the third installment where all the bets are off, where the past comes back to bite you in the ass. Whatever we thought we knew, we didn't know.
Off the table.
It's off the table. And you know what? For me, that meant that as much as in my head, every time I go through to rewatch, I think Scream 3 is the worst. It's going to suck. Nope. It's really good.
So,
it's really good.
Justice for Scream 3.
Agreed.
Like, all right, here's the thing. I've tried in my mind before to like rank out the Scream films.
Mm-hmm.
And I gave up because I was like, you know what? They're each good and bad in their own rights. Like they each have their high and low points. But the amount of shit that Scream 3 gets has always infuriated me, especially within the community, to not think about the things they had to do for this film, things that were going on during that time. Like it's not as gory. It's not as, but when it might not be as gory, but they made up for that with amazing comedic moments, like things that kept me drawn into the story. I hate to be parts of conversations where people shit on Scream 3 because I'm like, you're not giving it its due just, you know.
And
like,
I don't understand. I don't know if I just go through this every time I rewatch it and I think I don't like it and then I watch it and I remember that I really enjoy it, or if there was a time when I did like it less. I don't know, but like I'm even throwing shade at my past self if I ever talk shit about this because it's really not it's a real, like, I like it more than Scream 2. I don't know that I'm prepared to rank, like, I was doing the same thing. I was thinking, well, would I rank it above Scream 2? But it's not like Scream 3 is without its missteps. There's still problems here. Like, it's still not the original Scream. So, but I feel like Scream 2, Scream 3, they're kind of on par.
Yeah.
Like, I really, we joked in the last one that, or at least I joked saying, we can talk about how shitty Roman is when we get to Scream 3. He's actually not that bad. There's some stuff where I'm like, okay, the killer reveal speech doesn't pack the punch that, Billy and Stu's did. He's got some, like, I feel like, the whole thing about revealing what happened to their mom. Sydney wasn't there with Gail and Jennifer and Dewey. She doesn't know about this. So, like, it's a weird, like, it's just a weird speech. But him being the killer and him having so much influence over the entire story of Scream, I think it's actually really good.
I mean, that's the thing. Like, it's pretty brilliant. In its right. And yeah, I know I said we'll shit on Roman. I mean, like, here's the thing about it. It just wasn't executed that great. But the thought and the reasoning, I think, are really great.
I agree.
Like, all films are going to have missteps. It happens. I mean, whatever. Especially when you're in a franchise and you're on the third one. And this was supposed to be the end of the trilogy.
Mm-hmm.
There are going to be parts that don't land. I think, like you just said, it's not actually Roman. It's how we led up. It's kind of messy of how we led up to it being Roman. But
like,
that Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, I just was gonna say, like, I feel like if Sydney knew more about what Gail and Jennifer had found out, it would come together a little cleaner.
Yes, exactly. So, but I kinda like, I don't know, it feels kinda cheesy to say this, but that moment between Sydney and Roman, you know, it felt like I kind of got sad a little bit where I was like, well, shit. I mean, he didn't know his mother outside of this person, and Sydney didn't know her mother outside of who she was to her. And it's actually pretty deep when Detective Kincaid says that to Sydney. Comes full circle at the end of the film because it's like, yes, but it's how you remember her or how
Mhm.
you know her. And yeah, so like to have these half siblings, they each have a different like aspect of who their mother was and the wrongs that she did to both of them. I think that's those are human flaws and they're actually fleshed out pretty brilliantly in my opinion. So,
I agree, and, like, you've already brought up the fact that they, had to or well, that they made it less gory, there was stuff happening at the time. I also know that they changed most of the story, like, this was supposed to be uh, fucking spoiler, but, like, Stu Macher is alive, apparently, or he at least was supposed to be, because he was, like, orchestrating this whole thing with a bunch of teenagers to be doing these murders, which, like, after Columbine, yeah, they kinda shut that shit down, which, you know, I guess I appreciate that they did that, but there's part of me that's also like, but a big, like, cornerstone of your franchise is that movies don't make psychos.
right.
And I'm a little, like, I don't know if disappointed is the right word, but, like, we give in to those narratives by making movies less gory? Like, by, I don't know. They probably were forced to by the studio. They probably didn't have a choice. They had to do what they had to do, or maybe they felt that that was just the morally correct choice to make. It is what it is. I don't think that for having to change the entire story, essentially, that this came together that badly.
I agree. I agree. And it's very what I do love about this film is the meta takes of it. And what I mean by that is exactly what you just explained with how Scream 3 was to come about. I mean, this production of Stab, these things started happening, like I mean, there people were murdered, but there was a lot of conversation around like, well, I mean, this is just a film or this is
Mhm.
just, I loved those are the parts that I loved the most in Scream 3, were that they weren't afraid to get very meta with what was happening in the reality of horror and this franchise and what they were having to do on this film and embed it into the actual storyline of the film as well. Like, it's something that I think is it's obviously overlooked because people just, they're not a fan of this movie.
And
So,
I just I don't know. I wanna talk about why maybe people don't like it as much, but before we move on, I totally agree about the way that this franchise continues to build on being meta and goes with the times and introduces something different about the world of horror or movie production or whatever it might be. In our coverage of Scream 2, I said it doesn't get more meta than, having this killer reveal on a stage, but it does because then you put it on a film set
yeah.
and it's like art imitating life, imitating art or whatever, like Mickey says in part 2,
Yeah.
right? Like, I mean, they just keep bringing it to the next level and keep pushing it and seeing how far they can go. And I don't know how much of this was baked into the first, like, original script or whatever, but the whole thing about the seedy underbelly of Hollywood, 23 years later still feels so relevant,
Mhm.
unfortunately. So I don't know how much of that was actually happening at that time, or if this is just more evidence of the franchise being so ahead of its time.
Yeah.
But I really can't understand the hate. If we look at it from what's the bread and butter of Scream, it's being meta, it's being self-aware, it's calling out tropes, it's, all of that stuff, it's being self-reflective. It's doing all of those things and in
Yes.
different ways than it did in the previous two.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and I think, gosh, I really don't want to misspeak here. What uh, I think that Harvey Weinstein
Mhm.
was the producer of, like, the first, I don't know about 2, but I know he was for the 1, and did not produce this one, and so the seedy, like, underbelly, like, even when you're talking about, and I mean, this stuff had not come out about Harvey Weinstein yet, not until Me Too, but it was obvious that it was going on. So, and even going on, like, I'm not gonna say going on with anyone, but actually, I will take that back. It is Rose McGowan. She was Tatum in Scream 1, and, just that was injected into to the film as well. And that's what I mean about it being, I mean, so meta, and do we even know if they meant to go that direction? I don't know, but just how it all came about, it's really a misunderstood film.
I agree. I totally agree, and I also really like how okay, how do I say this? Like, I don't think okay, yes, Maureen Prescott, they kind of it's not even a reverse engineer, but we just got more perspective. We got more backstory and we realized like the atrocities that had happened to her. And that doesn't make it okay that she then cheated on her husband with all of these men,
Right.
but it does kind of take away something that I always felt was a little bit flawed about Scream was, like, painting the mother out to be this, like, horrible person because she had an affair. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like,
Right.
I kinda feel like retroactively that again, it doesn't absolve her of those quote unquote "sins," but it just allows us to see more of a gray area, and I think it just fleshes things out that much better.
Absolutely.
And it also gave me a different perspective on Sam from Scream 5, 5 Cream, in terms of these main characters having this connection with a kind of psychopathic family member.
Yeah.
So, like, Sam wasn't even the first to do it. It was Nev and or Nev, Sydney and Roman,
Right.
like,
Right.
yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, I will say one thing that I used to think, and this actually changed because I mentioned when we covered Scream, the original Scream, I
Mhm.
will watch the original Scream several times a year. I mean, but
Yeah.
it's hit or miss on which one of the sequels I will watch. I will watch them, but so this was the first time in quite a while that I had rewatched Scream 3. Now, what I used to think was kind of kooky and what used to push it down a little bit on my list was like the ghosty stuff.
Oh, that is a misstep for me. It is.
But I will tell you though, yeah, the execution of the ghosty stuff was a misstep.
Okay, yeah.
However, the grief and trauma manifesting itself in this way for Sydney, I do appreciate them trying
Mhm.
to put this forth because she went through all of the events of Scream and then it happened to her again at college. And now she's kind of isolated herself and she's taking these steps to not, continue to be a victim of
Mhm.
this killer. But in that, is she having to face some of this grief and trauma? I mean, she's also like a crisis. I think that kudos, but that's not something I think that she should be doing because we've talked about this. It's emotional bandwidth that one person can have. And when you're
Yes.
sorting through your own grief and trauma, it's very hard to bring on someone else's. So does that manifest it even more for her? So the execution of the ghosty stuff, is still a misstep for me, but the idea behind it and what they were trying
Sure.
to project, I'm more appreciative of after this last watch. Because that used to just be something that I was like, I don't resonate with this part at all, but
Well, I agree. I appreciate that perspective. I guess I didn't think about it in that way because I'm so wrapped up in how it just looks like shit.
it
Like,
doesn't look good.
it's a
Yeah.
little cheesy, but you're right. When you actually root it in where it's coming from for Sydney, that does make a lot more sense.
Yeah.
The crisis counselor thing, good point. I also wonder if that's how she is coping with stuff. Like, it's part of her healing process to help other people. I like it in terms of character development, and I think we're supposed to well, I think maybe a lot of people might see Sydney's situation living out there in the country and being so isolated as sad, but I'm like, "Can I where do I sign up?
I'm
Because
ready.
get me the fuck out of this city
I'm
and let
ready.
nobody know where I am." I'm sorry, she lives on a beautiful, like, ranch style setting, and the one thing I will say, though, is, like, "Sweetie, anybody can hop this fence. I
I
don't know what
mean,
you're doing."
like, it makes me wonder,
Is there, like, an electricity
well,
thing above it?
when she was pressing the code in, I was like, "Well, perhaps this is an electric fence," but nonetheless, it's only tapered to a specific thing, like, someone could still, like, get around that. Yeah, I'm like, "Honey, you need a 6 foot at least, okay?
Yeah. It
Not
was
the
a little
not the
silly,
fence."
but,
Yeah. Yeah.
um so, okay, I think that could be a point for why it gets knocked down on people's list is the ghost stuff.
Mhm.
I will say there is and I don't know if this is because it's set in LA, it's a Hollywood type thing, it's on a studio lot. There is a brighter tone to the film.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's something that they consciously did to have it not be so heavy around that time in, current culture or whatever. And it is a little I do think that the comedy is a little more pronounced than in the previous films. But I think for me, it has scarier moments than Scream 2. So for me, I think there's a nice balance.
Yeah, I mean, listen, so there were a couple of moments when the house blows up. I mean, that was scary for me. Like,
Oh, okay. I was
honestly.
like, "Eh."
No, but I mean, like, that was new territory they were going
Sure.
into
Yeah.
versus the slice and dice
Yeah. Mhm.
way. Which, if you can't do gore, I mean, which other way are you going to do it? But there was an element of surprise to that. Also, the way that Parker Posey's character, Jennifer, her name is Jennifer, yeah. The way that she's, behind the two-way, glass or whatever.
That's the most terrifying part for
That,
me
yeah, exactly.
because it packs the punch of why is this a thing in this man's home?
Well, we know why.
Well, we do know why, of course, but it's like, this is terrifying because
Yes.
you can imagine that there were maybe other women behind those mirrors at some point doing
Oh,
the same thing, didn't get stabbed to death, but,
yeah.
it's hard not to think about that, and the layers that it adds is terrifying.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Um, so yeah, there were scarier and I don't wanna say that, like, killer boyfriend is a cliched thing, but there these 2 moments right here specifically just felt a little more real in, like, um, a more realistic death, if that makes sense, right? Like, I mean, I don't think that I'm gonna, hopefully, knock on wood, get involved with someone that's, then just gonna kill everybody around me and then get me, like, that's the horror movie, but I guess
I
what I'm
don't
trying
know,
to say is
Scott does have a lot of jackets, so that does equal a lot of disguises for him.
that's true. That's true. But I mean, just they felt like more realistic deaths. And so there was that layer to that as well. For the comedy, how I interpret it and felt it was, which I thought was actually really it, genius in my way of interpreting it, is it's a campy, silly, like Dewey could not be more goofy. In any of the Scream movies, he's the goofiest and silliest in this one, right? Like it's his looks at Gail and everything, but also
Rules
like
are rules, Gail.
Gail, yeah, yeah, yeah. She needs me, Gail. Yeah, but and then their interaction. So the comedy points in this felt almost campy at some points, which I
Yeah.
kind of appreciate as well because you have parts of franchises that are way campier than other films in the franchise, and I don't think they took it overboard. So I like that the comedy basis of this film as well. Like yeah, well, sure. Was it lacking on a lot of quote unquote suspense or whatever? Sure, but I don't mind sitting there and having a great chuckle, while I'm trying to figure out who's after the kids this time.
And it, for some reason, just works better here because I know I mentioned that there's some campy parts in Scream 2 that just don't work for me. But I think, I don't know, maybe it's the Hollywood setting. Maybe
Yeah,
it's the fact that it's between Gail and Dewey and this bickering thing that they have back and forth. And we've known them for 3 films now, so they've kind of earned this energy or whatever. But, the Parker Posey's kind of over the topness works for me as her being this like melodramatic, not even, no, not melodramatic, but just like very dramatic and stagey actor versus the choice to have a cheesy theme song playing as Sydney walks away from the college, clearly in need of medical attention. Like those two things, the Parker Posey stuff just works so much better for me.
absolutely.
It's just in the right setting, or I don't know. And talking about settings, like I loved seeing stuff from Woodsboro.
Yeah.
That really worked for me. And I was confused. I wondered if it was like a flashback scene when we see the garage all set up for like Tatum's death scene. Was that a flashback? Because we know that they're doing some sort of flashback to Maureen's death too, so it's quite possible. But
Yeah, but I was this is one thing I don't know the explanation, but I'm not going to get on board with it because like why is that there? Because the Woodsbury setup seems to be focused around Sydney and her mother. So what's the garage got to do with it? Because that
Stu's
was
house
at
is
Stu's
there.
house.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know, but can we talk about the audacity of having a fucking Creed poster instead of Indigo Girls?
Well, can we talk about the audacity of that was like okay, so my opening line, I changed it a couple of times, okay? The first line I put down though was pressing play on my Creed CD because when we have our opening scene with Cotton's death, like the music that turns on is Creed. And
Right.
obviously I had this CD, I had this soundtrack. I know that Creed was on it, like their
Well, I
music
feel like they
video.
produced it or something, or they
There
like, they
was
were a
some
big part
bit
of it, yeah.
yes, so but I was like, "Not this, not today." Like, not the Creed poster. I
Mm-mm.
can deal with Ghostface wanting to turn on Creed versus, whatever was playing in there, but I'm drawing the line at the Creed poster now, okay?
It's just it feels, it's below the belt, I don't like it. It feels like an insult.
Oh, well, and there's also I think something that this was something that irritated me. Scream 1 especially had a killer, no pun intended, soundtrack, but it was, like, interlaced throughout the entire film so well, but, like, the only music we really got here was, like, the Creed moment, and then the rest of it was pretty, like,
And
just
Red Right Hand, but it's
and we
like you
did get
can't make
that.
a Scream film without that, so
Right, yeah, but outside of those and the Red Right Hand was it was just when they were
Mhm.
closing the set, so
It
it
was
wasn't
also like
even
a different part of it almost that I
it
was
was a
like, "Why are
different
we
mix
doing this?"
or something. Um Yeah, so I was like, if you're not gonna have good music, don't just put Creed
Yeah.
in there. I'm sorry, I'm shitting all over Creed, and guess what? I'm a hypocrite. You know why? I fucking loved, like, I used to love Creed,
Mm.
but then I grew up. So
Yeah.
there you go.
Yeah, then you grew up. I mean,
Uh,
that could be another reason that people don't like it, though. I mean, and I can't fault them for that, you know? I just can't. I mean, I guess, we really have buried the lead for quite a while now. Shall we address Gail's bangs?
she got bang.
Ooh, boy, did she ever.
Let me tell you something. This right here, these bangs, whoever is responsible for this, shame on you.
Mhm.
Because this looks like when you are 6 years old and you get hold of the scissors,
Yep.
and then all of a sudden you come into school with bangs that don't go below your hairline. Okay, because we've been trying
So
to fix it.
I watched, I guess before Five Cream came out, they all went on the Drew Barrymore show. And there is a clip of Courtney Cox talking about what happened with the Scream 3 bangs. And apparently it's a hairpiece. And so when they were fitting it, the person put it on and she said something about like it's supposed to go like here-ish, but the person accidentally put it back here and then started cutting. So of course it was too short. And for some reason they couldn't
They
just
kept
get
it.
another
Well,
piece. I
I
don't
know.
really understand that bit. I don't know why there was no option to get another piece of bangs or whatever, but like so it was an error on, the stylist part or whatever. It's not actually Courtney Cox's bangs.
Right. No, yes. We know she would not pull a faux pas like this,
But you
but
know what? Let me say this. Let me just say this. They are worse in my imagination than they actually are on screen. Because
I'm gonna have to disagree.
let's not forget though that this like it's Courtney Cox. She's a gorgeous human being who like I just don't think she looks that bad. Am I saying I would get these bangs? No. Hell no. But she's still like I don't know. She's pulling it off for me in a weird way.
Well, I guess. I mean, props to you, Miss Cox, but they look horrific in my mind and horrific in real life too.
Look, they're not good. I'm not saying like, "Hey, this movie's better than we think and those bangs aren't bad."
And
But
those
like
bangs are the best. That's the new trend. Well, but let me tell you,
but they might be.
they
That is
really
a bang style that's coming back though.
you
Let's
ain't lying.
mhm.
I do like how they really tried to turn around the bang fiasco with the, butterfly clips at the end, though.
Oh,
That
yes.
favorite part. I was like, "You
Yes.
know what? You're knowing the error in your ways, and what you're gonna do is just pull up a simple bun and throw in some of those butterfly hair clips, and
Ugh,
nobody's even gonna pay attention to the bangs
I
anymore."
love
'Cause
those
that's
butterfly hair
exactly what
clips.
happened. Oh, me
Yep.
too, girl. I used to put
Ugh,
all I'm talking
just
about
everywhere. Yeah.
you could hear me coming down the hall, clank, 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 clank. They were everywhere.
Oh, and the little tiny ones, those were the
But
best. They
yes,
didn't do anything. They couldn't possibly hold your hair,
2
but
strands, 2 strands.
sure. But with my hair, there's
No, so yeah, like but the bangs also were okay, I'll give it to this. They're Gale. It's just like we're
this
talking
is the
about
thing for
Gale
me too.
better here.
Yes. I'm sorry, neon colored pantsuits every day, all the time.
That's what I'm
I'm not
saying.
surprised for a baby wispy bang. I'm not.
This is the truth.
So, I mean, like it's not like she's ever I mean, she is a little over the top in the fashion choices, so now it's just extended into the hair. That's it.
Yeah, while we're talking about fashion, can we let our man Dewey wear something other than khakis, a flannel shirt, and an Izod or a oh, what were those? The alligator. It was the alligator. Anyway, like the
Oh, like
jacket.
Lacoste or whatever?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can we get this man a different? Like that's all he wore in Scream 2. He's now wearing the same thing in Scream 3. When we get to Scream 4, I'm going to analyze his fashion choices again. But I want to see this man in a pair of damn blue jeans. Okay.
Well, piggybacking off that, I'd love to see Sydney wear something other than a green shirt. I mean, it's also Nev Campbell. She'd probably look great in anything. Give
Oh,
her something other than a green fucking shirt.
I mean, come on now. Like, let's yeah. Yeah. Let's give her something other than the green shirt.
You know, for Dewey, it's like, I really don't think I think he is the kind of person, and no shade to this because I do this too, but he found a pair of khakis that fit him the way he liked, and he bought 10 of them. And that
Of
is all
course
he
he
has in
did.
his closet. He likes those little collared t-shirts, and he bought, you know, a dozen of those or whatever. So
Yeah. No. But it's just like halfway through the movie, I was like, I'm pretty sure we're on different days, but he's got the same thing on.
he is just a big beige wonder. Yeah.
Beige wonder.
But yeah.
Um,
And you know, like we get to see Randy again. Like that's such a wonderful part, and it's again another great continuation of talking about the rules in these movies. And
yeah.
there was something about the way he said, "'Cause some of you aren't gonna make it. I didn't." And I was like, "No,
I
Randy."
know. Too soon. Too
Yeah, too
soon.
soon, Randy, because we just watched Scream 2 like 2 weeks ago.
Too soon. Um, yeah, oh gosh, yeah. Because then he was like, even the main character can die, and that means you, Sid. I
Sorry,
mean,
Sid.
yeah. Oh,
15
but
minutes, Paul. I'm leaving my legacy.
this is okay. And I'm just gonna whatever. I'm gonna keep saying it for whatever. This is why I hate that they killed him in Scream 2. I understand it. I'm not gonna be the kind of person that like doesn't understand that they have to kill off the legacy characters. Duh, I get it. But I just hate that it had to be such a great character like Randy because like I'm glad we had our few minutes with him for this videotape, but it made me want him back. Like as a character so badly, so badly.
Mhm, mhm. I do wonder how he would have fit into this particular story. Like,
He probably would have got killed in this one.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, you know,
right? I mean, where else would he fit in? Well, he was in that film class. It's possible he moved to Hollywood and
mm,
got a job
and it's
working
on the
somewhere
set.
out there. Yeah. Maybe he was, like, struggling working at a coffee shop or something, you know? But
Instead of a video store, it's now the
yeah.
or the vegan grocery store.
Yeah, probably. So, but I
Oh,
mean, regardless, it was nice to see him again. Uh, Carrie Fisher has a cameo in this fucking movie. Like, hello, it's
I
great.
mean, it's great, but it's also like, why? I love don't get
I
me
don't
wrong.
care, and I'm here for it.
I know. I mean, that's what I was about to say. Like, it doesn't bother me, but it's funny because I'm kind of like, but I guess that would be the Hollywood thing, right? Like she didn't get Princess Leia because she didn't sleep with the director or whatever. But uh, I still kind of was also like, well, are you Bianca or not though? Like, who
I
are you?
Right, and I feel like maybe for some people, they found it gimmicky. Like, I guess, you know, that could be an argument. To me, the cameo that was gimmicky was Jay and Silent Bob. Like,
Yeah, I don't like
I
that.
don't
I
that
don't like
didn't
that.
serve any purpose for me. At least Carrie
No.
Fisher had a role to play. And
The
she was, like, an integral part of figuring out this information about Maureen, but, like, and it's not like I dislike Jay and Silent Bob, like, I don't have a problem with them, I just didn't see that felt like stunt casting almost, like
Well, it was because I don't know why they would be on a tour of like Paramount Pictures or wherever like whatever this studio is. Like, why would they be on a tour? Yeah, like it
yeah,
doesn't, but
yeah.
whatever. I mean, every time I see it, I'm just like, oh, okay. Yeah. Uh,
One
oh,
other thing that I did really like, from the ending, and I think this works even better, when it first comes out and you think that it's, you know, the end of the trilogy. When Sydney, you know, we think that she's been shot, that she might be dead, and then Roman turns around and she has done her own, like, kind of disappearing act, a la every killer in every slasher. There's something really nice about that little moment that Sydney gets to turn the tables and do that. I mean, I know
oh,
she kind of did that from the kitchen in Scream 1, but it is different because she wasn't shot.
yeah.
So,
Like
yeah,
this was always my favorite moment from Scream 3.
right.
Was, like, this final like, Sydney's part of this final,
Yeah.
and the fact that they both had on their, bulletproof vests and everything, like, she's no longer victim Sydney, like, she's now, like she's playing the game too, you know?
And she's just like, "Why don't you just shut the fuck up and take some responsibility already?" Like, I really appreciated that line.
Yeah. Um, again, like, I don't understand the hate for it. I mean, sure, did it have gimmicky parts? Yeah, but I mean, I also think about not just the adversities they were facing, like, in the culture at the time, like RAL, right?
Mhm.
But I'm also thinking about where are we when it comes to trilogies? And perhaps it's because I am reading this book, The Final Girl Support Group, which is just so great. But it's like they go through every trope of like, okay, well then there's the sequel, right? And you're in it again. And now when it comes to the trilogy, like what part do you play in that? Do you start taking over, a different character? Uh, what am I trying to say? Like Sydney has evolved into she's not just a final girl anymore. Like she's playing the game. She
Right.
knows the steps.
Right.
And I just it was intended to be the end, I guess, of the Scream, and then Scream 4 came out so many years later.
Yeah,
But,
like a decade, yeah.
yeah. So, but it was intended to be the end of it. So, just like what Randy said, like everything's off the table. Let them have fun and let them, like
Yeah,
have
true.
goofy, silly, stupid moments, but then have really serious, deep moments. And that's what I appreciate from, Scream 3. So,
Yeah, yeah. Well, so do you have a favorite kill?
okay. Well, honestly, I I love Liv Schreiber, but I kind of was into the way that they got Cotton, to be honest with you. And it's because Cotton evolved into this really unlikable character. I know we talked about how he didn't really fit in like last time, but like really at the root of it all, he was sleeping with a married woman, but he did not kill her. So he was wrongfully convicted. Like he did have, like hardships when it came to that. But like the character of Cotton in Scream 3 where he's got 100% Cotton, his show and he's got a beautiful girlfriend at home, but yet he's like, talking
Yeah,
with like this girl
mhm.
on the phone and so, I was kind of glad that, Cotton was our opening kill of Scream 3, to be honest with you.
I think that was great too, and the way that they sort of wrote it in as he had that bit part in Stab 3, couldn't they make a better character for me? And you know
Yes.
what, like, from what we knew about Cotton in Scream 2, he wanted his 15 minutes of fame, he wanted to be recognized. His character kind of did what his character was wanting to do, he achieved it, and so you're done.
Yeah.
Like, bye.
Yep. Yep.
And that opening is we didn't actually compare, like, opening sequences. I think it's kind of on par for me with Scream 2 because it's not the best, it's not the worst, but there's something about the cloning of the voices that definitely escalates things and makes it still scary in a new way, and it's really good how they kind of utilize that throughout the rest of the
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah, for sure.
Um,
So you're
Another thing we didn't
oh,
say though too was them setting up Mark as kind of a misdirect or red herring.
yeah, but
I actually I liked it.
I don't know.
No?
What it was difficult for me. I found myself going "Pfft," a lot more this time
Yeah.
when it came to some of the things about Mark because I was like, it feels a little too forced that you
Mm.
should think him. It's like the way that his facial features were in some of the scenes or, things like that where I was like, and that's direction, I'm sure, for the actor, but I just was like, we don't really I don't know. Like I didn't know how or why this random detective would be like, the to turn out to be the killer. So
Well, that's true. There's not enough like, we don't know enough about him,
him,
although we don't
right?
really know that much about Roman either, like, a lot of it comes in that final speech, I guess.
That's true.
So but I agree, like, it's like, why would it be this detective? How does that fit in? What's going on here? I guess at least with Roman, he's making the movie, so it ties him in that way. But this time watching through, knowing who Mark is, I was like, he's fully hitting on Sydney this whole
Oh,
time. And
100.
what I used to think was maybe him being a little Billy-ish in terms of, like, that seductive psycho thing is really him just, like, totally digging Sydney, and, like, there's this moment even where he just, like, full on smiles at her at the weirdest point, and I'm like, "He is just fucking bewitched by this
Yeah.
woman."
I mean, let's face it, Mark Kincaid, you're no Billy Loomis, okay? I mean,
Sweet
that's what Stu was
stew.
doing
I
with that gun
know,
the whole
sweet
time, right? Like,
stew.
let's
She's
face
no
it,
Sarah Sharon Stone.
mom's no Sherry Stone. So,
Oh, sweet stew.
one thing I did really like also were the overlays of, like, Billy and Stu, like, some of their monologues from
Yes.
Scream. I
Yeah.
really, really like that in Scream
Mhm.
3 because I
I
was
like
like,
that too.
"Oh, so
I
I
know.
love it."
You know what? I mean, I feel like anytime you're gonna go back to the beginning with something, you're gonna hook a lot of people that really like that beginning of that story,
Yeah,
especially if you use it especially if you're not, like you're not using it to create like, you're not just, like, duplicating the story. You're
right.
using it to help
Further it.
pepper things in and
Yes.
yeah. Um, Favorite kill would be oh god, what is her name? It's Jenny McCarthy, and it's
Oh,
because, I
Sarah
love all
Darling.
Sarah Darling, that's it. I love the inclusion of all the, like, dummy props, like the dummy knives and stuff, and all of the ghost face costumes. I think that's really creepy, but also, like, so perfectly meta, and then the way she goes through the window, to me, is like the new Tatum.
Oh, yeah.
So I loved that sort of echo homage type thing.
Yeah. I mean, that was a good one, and, yeah. So,
And I think Jennifer is the scariest
it's the
one, but
scariest one, yeah.
yeah.
Um,
But yeah.
I
So
guess the only other thing I have left to say is that, I mean, like, poor Dewey, at the very end, and I just bless it because, they're just screaming at him, like, "Head, head, like, go for the head," and he's like, "What?"
and he should know by now.
I know,
And
I'm like,
he
"Hello?"
does learn. He does learn in a later film, and
But it's
oh,
a
it's
I don't
tragic.
wanna talk about it.
I
I don't wanna talk
know,
about it.
I know. If people watching wanna think about it or talk about it or hear about it, I guess you could we already have coverage of Scream 5, of 5 Cream Up on our YouTube channel, so you could check that out at any point. And speaking of YouTube, don't forget to like, subscribe, ring the bell.
Pew, 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 pew. Comment below.
Yes, comment below if you're enjoying this, please. And thank you for watching another installment of Damn Fine TV Goes to the Movies. We have lots more video content over on our Patreon, patreon.com/damnfinetv. You can also find us on Instagram at
Ah,
damnfinetv.
yeah,
Yeah.
and yeah, just come hang out with us.
Yeah, and we'll be back soon, I guess. Oh, I said that wrong. Oh my goodness. I was gonna say we'll be back soon with Scream 4, although we're gonna have to wait like a decade because, it's so far into the future,
So
but
really, we won't be right back.
we'll be
No,
right
but we
back
will.
in a
Yeah.
while. But it won't be a decade, no. I
No.
fucked the whole thing up and it led me down a shitty path of verbal
But I
vomit,
love
so I
it
apologize.
I love it because this was supposed to be the end of Scream, and then Scream 4 came along, so you are kind of, like, rebranding it in a way,
Thank
and I
you
like it.
very much. I mean, I can always count on you to just like save me. I tumbled down the hill and you saved me once again. The killer was right behind me and you shot him. Thank you.
Well, listen, I can't survive if you don't survive, so
Love it. We are the Gail and the Sydney of this show.
I'll be Gail,
Oh,
fine.
you're so close. You're so close. Well, I wish I had a green shirt on. That would make me feel more like Sydney, but anyways. All right, well, thank you for watching, and We'll be right back.